Alright, welcome back. We're going to start torquing down this front suspension. These bolts that go through the cross shaft to the chassis are easy enough. However, the cross shaft bolts themselves you're going to see me torque next. I recommend putting the control arm in the appropriate position. I torqued them down here and then I couldn't move them. So what I did was I backed them off a half a turn, realigned it, and then retorqued it. Next, we're going to tighten the ball joints into the lower control arms themselves. Needed to purchase this ball joint socket and adapter to fit my torque wrench, as I didn't have a 3/4 inch drive torque wrench. These guys get torqued to 125 foot-pounds. These lower control arms also come with a set screw, so once this is torqued, put a little bit of Loctite on that set screw and run it down. They shouldn't be going anywhere. Now you see me starting to put in the coilover. I didn't get video of doing the ball joints for the upper and lower control arms into the spindle itself. Those run at 70 pound-feet, and then you tighten it to the next slot on the castle nut that the cotter pin will accept. Here on this upper bushing, they have two recommendations, either 31 pound-feet of torque or until the bushing has been compressed to match the diameter of that upper washer. That actually happened first. You'll see that on here, and then went through and double checked it. It was in the mid to high 20s on the torque, so it was pretty close. But this also gets a secondary nut to tighten down and kind of jam lock on there, help keep things from going around. Now we're going to do the T-bar to the lower control arm. These two bolts have nylock nuts that get torqued to 25 pound-feet. Just trying to get some things prepped here, but this part's pretty straightforward. And it was really easy to get all this stuff in. I didn't have to push it in before I put the spindle on or anything like that. With the control arms attached to the spindle, still had plenty of room to slide this coilover in and get it mounted up, so pretty easy. Next up, we're going to install the power steering rack. Would have been a little easier without this lower radiator support, but it's not too bad. Slide up the driver's side, get around that pinion that goes into the input shaft for your intermediate shaft. Slide in your bolt, add on your 3/4 inch spacer, which is necessary for installing a power rack on a Mustang 2. The manual racks don't have that. Then the bolt will just kind of set on there. You don't really want to thread anything onto the nylock nut, because as you see, I'm going to need to roll it a little bit to clear those hydraulic lines. But hey, it pops out a little bit, hydraulic line's holding it up. Get that bolt back up in there, not a big deal. We're going to put in the bolt and the spacer on the passenger side. Then we can thread down that nylock nut on the passenger side, go back over to the driver's side and get that nylock on there. now that we got them started, we're just gonna zip them down with this small impact. It's not even gonna get close to the 90 pound-feet of torque required for these to get them on there, but it speeds up the process a little bit. Now, because I'm right-handed and I'm doing this from the front of the vehicle, the passenger side is going to be a lot easier for me to torque down and help keep the chassis in place, holding that back lock nut from spinning. I'm able to get it relatively easy from this position, but as you'll see, I struggled quite a lot on the driver's side. So you do what you got to do and you figure it out. So as you can see, I've been struggling trying to take some different approaches, and what I end up doing here is getting the wrench on and kind of holding it in place with my leg or my foot so that I can hold on to the chassis and then press it over, and that ended up getting that final torque setting, and we're good to go. Now we're going to connect the tie rod ends to the spindles. These are not going to get torqued down yet, as we're going to do some basic adjustment first. They're both spun all the way in, and we'll try to make sure everything looks lined up and shooting straight from there. And once we get a basic idea, we can go ahead and tighten those down and get the cotter pin in. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all the support. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.